Aloha, my love. Helena Das here. So I want to talk to you today about the field, the shared field, the quantum field that exists between you and your horse or horses, both individually as well as if you have a herd, there's going to be a bigger shared field that has everybody in it. But today I specifically want to address this shared field between you and your heart horse, and a particular horse that perhaps is calling you to rise, calling you to step into that next level of embodied leadership, and really deepen your connection with yourself, with them, with your confidence, your courage, your intuition, all the things. This is who I am talking to today. And if you stick with me to the end of today's video, I am going to take you through a mini process to tap into this field, which I was so excited to do and nudged to do with you today. But before we do that, I want to give you some background as to why I'm sharing this and really how potent and powerful that field or tapping into that field can be, especially with you as the human guardian in the team, okay, in the equation. And so I want to take you back, first of all, and give you some examples both of my own, with my own personal horses, as well as in my former vocation for over 2 decades as a renegade holistic equine veterinarian, where I specialized in wellness and performance, integrating chiropractic, acupuncture, herbal medicine, and beyond. And as a result, have thousands of hours under my belt, kind of attuning to these energies in the field between that horse and human, in a very different way, I believe, than I would have if I was practicing regular veterinary medicine. And, I'll just say, like, when I graduated vet school, for the first few years, I worked for other veterinarians before I started my own practice. And while my heart was leaning towards the holistic route, I had a mentor recommend that I do both. Whoa, pardon the plane. That I do both, allopathic and holistic, to at least to start out with, so I was more like well-rounded. So I followed his advice for a couple years anyway. And I can remember, this is a small animal vet practice example to give you. I think there's a little more leeway with the large animal or equine, but I can remember, we were expected literally to see a patient, examine them, diagnose them, make a treatment, prescription, protocol, whatever, in 15 minutes. And I thought that was, like, granted, I was just starting out, and I know, maybe someone who's more seasoned can do that. However, for me, it just never felt aligned. Like, okay, an emergency situation, yeah, I think that's amazing, but that's not where my gifts and my heart, in terms of the way I'm wired to serve and heal and help, was just not, like, that wasn't me, okay? And so, and it was like night and day. And then I remember working for a holistic vet practice where, the calls were scheduled, were like 45 minutes to an hour long. And I was like, okay, this is more my pace. I have time to get to know the animal, and build up a rapport and get more thorough history and all the things, right? Like, it just it felt more aligned in the way that I am wired, again, to help. Anyway, That being said, and of course, it's one of the reasons, sacred rebel that I am, renegade, woo woo voodoo vet at the time, why I started my own practice is because I wanted to break the rules. I wanted to practice in the way that felt good to me, felt aligned and true and good to me. And, that meant having more space and grace on my appointments, so that I felt that I could truly, deliver the best possible, service for my clients. Anyway, I digress. But what I want to share with you is towards the end of my practice, because it was ever evolving, towards the end, after I had lost my beloved Skipper back in 2007, my first horse, and I try to remember to drop that video down below. You never forget your first love. I started to really venture into like beyond the beyond and back. Like, I like to say that he took me on my unbridled soul journey, because I missed him so much. And of course, like, losing him 3 months after losing my mom, there was this whole exploration around death and, the afterlife and all the things. And I was connecting with mediums and healers and psychics, wanting to connect to him and my mom. And so anyway, it opened up this whole new dimension of also healing. And so I began studying and getting trained in certifications in like quantum vortex energy healing and the emotion code and Centelligence and a bunch of other reconnective healing. And so I started exploring a lot of energy medicine, if you will, and I began infusing that into my practice. And I will say that not the majority of my clients were not exactly ready for this type of work. The woo-woo voodoo vet. I was actually once called a witch, but anyway, we won't go there. What I want to share with you is like towards the end, where I was bringing in the energy and really had started to attune to this field between the horse and the human, and this shared field, and how, again, the overall health and wellness, well-being of the two were so intertwined. Cue the spaghetti, right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you want to watch my last video on why women are 3 times more likely than men to sustain riding horse-related injuries. Anyway, I cannot tell you how many times towards the end, of before I transitioned out of that work, there were so many times that I actually was able to facilitate, activate, I don't know even what the word is, but to witness incredible healing, physical, profound healing results in the horses without ever touching them, by working on the human. Okay? One example that I'll share with you that comes to mind was this young Pacifino. I think it was like a rescue, very skittish. They called me out because he was having some neck issues, and for the life of me, he was just not going to have it. Like, I could not get to the place where he would actually let me even do some gentle manipulation or stretches to like evaluate his neck. Like, he was very skittish and we were just not connecting. And so I asked his human if she would be open to me doing some work with her, because of this shared field. It's not what I was calling it at the time, but anyway, she was open, which was, again, more the exception than the rule. She was open, and I did some work with her, energy scan, reading, clearing. I did my thing with her. We spent a good, I don't know, 30 minutes or so outside of the stall. Okay. And again, I never touched the horse, to even get to assess him, never mind like treat him or do any kind of gentle spinal manipulation. And I didn't do any physical work on her. It was all energy work. Okay. And so I worked with her. They called me back the next week, and the horse was better. And so, like, that just blew me away, right? Like, I didn't touch the horse. I actually didn't do anything physical on her. I did energy work on her, and the horse improved. Okay. And that's just one example. With I'll share one more. I had a client friend, who actually had moved out of town, and so she called me for advice on one of her horses, and so I did tap in, like remotely, if you will, and it was a new horse, so I think she sent me a picture or something, but I tapped in remotely, did my assessment, did a little bit of intuitive coaching as far as anything else from a guardian standpoint, that might help support the process. And I didn't touch the horse. We did energy work. I didn't touch the horse, and the horse improved. Okay, like very after the first call. Anyway, why I'm sharing this, and I guess one other thing that I do want to share is my own personal experience with my own horses tapping into the field. So there was this one time I went out of town for like a conference or something for a few days, and while I was gone, my mare, Hannah Bear, ended up somehow getting like this like a laceration and a lump. She had an injury on her neck, and my partner who was watching her, he called me. Anyway, I wasn't home yet, but I did come back early as soon as I could. But in the meantime, I told him some simple things that he could do in the meantime, but I literally worked on her from a few hours away, okay, like remotely. In my mind, in my heart, I was connecting with her feel, and I was doing what you might want to call remote energy healing, for lack of a better description. And he had sent me a picture. I think he had sent me a picture. I can't even remember now. Anyway, I think he sent me a picture of what it looked like, and when I came back the next day, it was like so much better. It was amazing. Anyway, these are just a handful of examples of like how you can tap into the field. There are different examples of tapping into the field to facilitate that wellness and that connection. Here's another one that I want to share, and this was actually more through tapping, okay, EFT, but it's still an example of the shared field. So I had this other client who was I went out to treat her horse for, his tune-up, and we did that, and then she shared with me before I was leaving that she was having trouble trailering him. He was a new horse, and I think he was also a Pasofino or a Tennessee Walker. I don't remember, one of those. Anyway, she was having trouble trailering him, and so at the time, there were a couple of years there where I was like really into EFT and tapping for myself, and then, again, using tapping into the quantum field to help others to like it in 4. So we sat. I asked her if she was open to it. We sat, and the horse was like in the stall or the cross ties, so we weren't working with him. We had finished his treatment, but we sat for maybe 15-20 minutes, and I took her through some tapping. Okay, I took her through some tapping around the stuff that she was feeling and her fears, and concerns about getting him in the trailer. And after I left, I can't remember if she called me or emailed me, but like 2 days later, she said that right after I left, right after we did the tapping, she went and put him on the trailer, and he walked right in, and she was so amazed because literally, like, it was the same, like, literally, right after I left. Anyway, and to me, looking back, that I could have said it was the tapping, and yes, the tapping was great, but it was affecting her field. It was helping her field, who was anxious about it, and carrying some of the residual, like, fear or trauma, anxiety about her previous experience trying to get him on the trailer, right? And we were able to release that and clear that with the tapping, and so now her field was clear, and then she was able to load the horse on the trailer. So anyway, these are just a handful of examples that I just felt like sharing with you around how connected we are, like this field, the shared field that I want to talk about. And so this field can not only be used to help facilitate health and healing and wellness, the trailer, right, example, that's like, I don't know what category you would put that under, guardianship or connection, or I don't know, training. That's not even training. I don't know what you want to call it. Anyway, I just wanted you to have like a variety of examples of the different ways that tapping into the field, the shared field that you have with your horse, can help. And so, the possibilities, the potential are limitless. So as promised, I shared a few examples. What I want to do right now is just take you through a very brief process to help you first just tap into that field. And also, this is specifically in mind because we've been talking a lot lately around building or rebuilding trust after trauma, and really strengthening like the connection and the safety and the partnership with, it could be a new horse maybe, or a rescue that you're getting to know, or it could be one that you had a spill with, or a spook, or a fall, or something. So you could have had the trauma, the horse could have the trauma. Either way, okay? It's either way. Again, there's that shared field, right? And so I want to just invite you to be open to what shows up for you. And the intention of this process is just very simply to help you begin to tap into the field, okay? And to just notice and observe, to expand your awareness as a first step as to what is present for you in the field. And you want to do this with one horse. If you have multiple horses, what I recommend doing so you don't dilute and confuse the process is to do this and then, focus on the one horse and then come back and do it again with the other horse, or multiple, however many you want.